Okay, when it comes to security guard companies, you can ask me about sales, marketing, operations, HR, hiring, but don't ask me about insurance because I don't know. But I know someone who does. So, thanks again for joining me, Fred. It's been a couple of years since we last talked, and we've had a lot of people who have been calling and emailing, chatting me up about insurance. So, I thought this would be a great time for us to jump on and talk a little bit more about, some of the stuff that we talked about in our first video. But before
Sure.
we get started there, can you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody who's watching?
Yeah, Fred Gardenour. I'm the president CEO of DFA Insurance here in Dallas, Texas. We've been doing security guard private investigation insurance for about 40 years. So we have clients all over the country, all the way from California to New York. And so we've always prided ourselves on being able to find the broadest coverage at the cheapest price. And so that's kind of where our motto is. That's our mantra, if you would.
So DFA Insure specifically is for security guard companies, private investigation companies.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So for those guys out there that call me and email me saying, hey, they don't like State Farm or Allstate, what would you say to those guys?
I'd say you need to check your policy real close. Those companies usually do not insure security guard companies or private investigators if they know you're a security company or a private investigator. So you have to be real careful. And I'll talk about it in a minute. One of the questions that Courtney and I talked about was knowing what coverages you do and don't have. All coverages are not alike, so you have to be careful. There's only about 8 companies in the United States that specialize in security guard coverage. And so we deal with all 8 of them. We don't really have a preference on which one of those companies we place you with because we're more interested in making sure we're not trying to push a square peg in a round hole. We're trying to make sure that your company likes what you do. So, depend on what you do as a guard company is depending on what company we would recommend that you go with.
Got it. Yeah. So we won't find, so your clients don't find themselves in a position where I was just talking to a guy probably 2 or 3 days ago where his insurance company dropped him. Right. So he's operating without insurance because the company that was covering him didn't want to play in the security guard industry. So that doesn't happen with your clients, I would suppose.
No, we don't. We would never put you with a company that that would approach it that direction because they know that they're in the security business, that you're in the security business when we put you with them. So.
Okay. Perfect. So I think there are a lot of things that security guard companies don't typically understand about the insurance industry, right? The insurance that's required for security guard companies. Hence, a lot of them end up talking to places like State Farm or Allstate. So what are the 3 biggest things that you think security guard companies don't understand about insurance?
A guard company or a PI that's starting out needs the insurance agent that he's working with needs to know whether he's going to be armed or unarmed. That primarily is the biggest reason that most companies are insured incorrectly. Because if you've got a company that doesn't like armed guards and they have an exclusion in their policy for that, which will be an assault and battery issue, then you need to go with, and you're armed, you need to go with somebody that doesn't have that exclusion in it. So you need to make sure that your coverage will cover you whether you're armed or you're unarmed. Now, the way that policy is, most policies are rated. They're rated on billable hours and they're rated on guard payroll. but the rate for armed is different than the rate for unarmed. So you just need to make sure that you're not buying uh, a Volkswagen and think you're driving a Cadillac.
So there might be some companies out there that have an insurance policy that are providing armed service, but the armed service isn't covered.
It's excluded.
Wow.
Uh, the so the thing that you need to do, and this is what I tell a lot of my clients, is when you buy a policy and you get a copy of it, all you have to do, you don't have to read the whole 162 pages. All you have to do is go to the first three, and it says exclusions. And you need to read those exclusions. And when you do, it will tell you that armed guard coverage is excluded, for instance, or habitational, which is apartments, is excluded. Bars and nightclubs are excluded. Bouncer work. It will tell you what the exclusion is. And those are the things that you need to look and make sure that what you're doing or what you want to do is not excluded from that policy form.
All right. So, number one, making sure that your insurance company is covering the services that you provide. What would be the other two?
Uh, and if they don't, then you need to find another company that will, or talk to that company to see if they will let you get that exclusion taken off your policy. Because a lot of times you'll start out as an unarmed guard company. Someone will approach you about a contract. It winds up requiring armed. And so you, at that point, didn't think you were armed, but now you are. So you need to go back to your agent, tell them that you got this contract, and you need to see if you can keep the same policy, just add armed coverage to it.
Well, that's a good tip. What would be the other two things that you think security guard companies don't understand about insurance?
When you when you go to a company and you think you're being cute sometimes, so you're not intending to lie, but what you do is you lie by omission. So you tell them you only have 2 guards and you're only going to run 4,000 hours a year, and you know that this contract is going to call for 12,000 hours a year. So the insurance that you buy is lower because they're basing it on 4,000 hours a year. Understand that your premium is based on 2 things, whether you're armed or unarmed, and so the payroll, and then also how many billable hours you have. That's a double check that the company has. So you need to make sure that you're as honest with your agent as you can be up front, because here's what will happen. Most all of these general liability policies, for example, are auditable. And so what they'll do is at the end of the year, you've accumulated 4 times the number of hours that you told the agent that you based the policy on, and all of a sudden you get hit with a bill for 3 to 4 times what you paid. Well, you can't bill your client after the fact. You've already collected from him. So that's going to come out of your profit. That's going to come out of your pocket. So you want to make sure that you're as upfront as you can possibly be, so that you don't get cut short.
Got it. So make sure that you have the right coverage, armed versus unarmed. Make sure that you're honest and open with your insurance agent. What would be number 3?
Well, when you're starting out and you're talking to your agent, this happens a lot. Tell him what your situation is. Or if you're not starting out, and you've been in business for a while, tell him what your situation is. Here's what you find. You find a guy that doesn't have any employees. He's just getting his license. And for whatever reason, he thinks it makes him look better if he brags about what he's going to do instead of what he's actually doing. Okay. If you don't have any clients, then please do not tell your agent that you're going to go out and you're going to do bodyguard work for celebrities. You're going to go be the next James Bond, and you're going to go across the pond, as they say, and do kidnap and recovery. You're going to run courier service for cannabis stores. If you're not doing that, don't tell your agent that that's what you're doing, because he's going to go off what you're telling him. If you happen to land a contract and you're going to do that, then there's plenty of time to adjust to either correct the policy that you have or to get another policy that will cover that. I have a lot of companies out there that wind up starting with one policy and then we add to it because we need to get a different type of coverage. The best example is, for instance, Scottsdale is a really good company. They're part of Nationwide, but they hate habitational. That's an exclusion they have in most of their, not all, but most of their policies. So if you're planning on doing apartments, okay, or if you're starting out and you've been an apartment complex and you have a Scottsdale policy, if it's excluded, then you either need to get them to lift that, or we need to get you a policy that doesn't exclude habitation. The other side of that is if you are with a company called Mesa, which is an excellent company, they're also A+. They have an exclusion for anything to do with PI or bodyguard work, okay, or PPO work. So if you are going to venture out and start doing that, make sure that you tell your agent, because if you have a Mesa policy, I guarantee you there's an exclusion in there for that, because they don't want to have anything to do with PPO, PI, bodyguard work. But there are companies that don't have that exclusion in it. They're a little bit more expensive, but if you've got a contract that you're going to get, then it's easy to adjust for that.
So that was a great third point, and it actually takes me to my next question. So one of the things that my insurance agent used to tell me all the time, and I will admit at this point I did not listen, was every time that I was going to start a new contract, forward the contract over to them to review. And I'm thinking at that time, why am I going to do that? I'll pay whatever I need to pay. Why? So that's the reason, or what's the best reason, or what's the reason that you should be forwarding your contract to your insurance agent?
What they're looking for is pretty simple. It's a hold harmless agreement. They want to see in your contract what you have, what you've told the client that you will take care of, your care, custody, and control, the 3 C's. And they want to see how much of a hold harmless that you've given that client. The example is this: a security guard, his main function is to report and protect. Okay, observe and report. Observe and report. It's not meant to go out and tackle a guy, shoot a guy. It's not meant to do anything like that. Observe and report. So if you've got a hold harmless agreement that says any kind of loss that you have, we will take responsibility for, there's not an insurance company in the world that's going to touch that contract, because they're going to say you have made a broad brush stroke that you can't insure. You can't go to a trucking terminal and guarantee that you're not going to have any losses at the trucking terminal. If they say, you tell them you need 6 guards, and they say, we don't want to pay for 6 guards. We only want to pay for 2. And so they have a truck back up to the back fence. It's full of electronic equipment. Okay. And it's tagged and it's sealed. And the guard is doing his job. He's sitting in watching a camera, and the second guard is patrolling the perimeter of the fence. Well, what they do is they wait till he passes, and then they go through the fence, break the tag on the truck, and they haul everything in that truck out through that hole in the fence. Well, if you've got a hold harmless agreement that says any kind of loss, we're going to be responsible for, you have just put the insurance company in a really difficult position to defend you, because it's not your job to guarantee loss. It's your job to observe and report, call the police. Okay. So, and by the way, the client decided he won't pay for 6 cars. He only want to pay for 2. Okay. And you can't patrol 6 acres with 2 guards. Not efficient.
So you just said something. You said that the insurance company has a hard time defending you. Exactly what is the purpose of getting this insurance? Let's say as an insurance company, as a security guard company, that scenario does happen, right? You're patrolling a terminal, somebody comes in, snatches all the electronic equipment. What happens? So I, as the security guard company, file a claim. I mean, what is the process?
The insurance company owes you a defense on anything in the insurance policy that's not an exclusion. Okay. So the trucking terminal example that I gave is not an exclusion. Okay. You didn't break any rules. Okay. You just had something in your contract that was relatively broad in nature. And that's not a basis to deny a claim, but they do owe you a defense. They owe you the ability to hire an adjuster. They hire an adjuster, then they get a law firm in tow. Should there be the need to your client files a lawsuit, they have to defend you on that. If you're running an unarmed contract and you have a guard that shows up armed, okay, and you have an armed exclusion, someone gets shot, then they're going to fall back on the exclusion for the armed guard, and they are not going to provide a defense. They're going to throw up their hands and say, this is on you.
Got it. So if your client files a lawsuit against you saying, hey, you have to reimburse us for this $500 million worth of equipment, then your insurance company should come to the rescue, essentially.
Correct.
So in looking at your history of, dealing with security guard companies, what is the biggest mistake that you see security guard companies making in terms of acquiring insurance, using the policies? What would be the biggest mistake? What would the biggest thing that you would warn your clients against?
The biggest one is assuming that all insurance policies are alike. That you mentioned 2 companies, Statefarm and Allstate. Both of them are really good companies. They've done an excellent job in the area that they have an expertise in. However, security and private investigation is not one of them. This happens all the time. I have people that have an office contents policy where they're insuring the slip and fall in your office, and they're insuring your furniture and fixtures and your computers, things like that. Allstate and State Farm do an excellent job with that. And when you look at the certificate, it shows that you have general liability. However, it does not extend to security guard, private investigation, and alarm companies. But you wouldn't know that, okay, until you have a claim and try to put it back on them. And then you read the policy and find out that all of those things are excluded. They're just not covered. So you have to be careful to realize that one size does not fit all. Okay. Now those policies are really cheap. Those policies run you less than $1,000 a year. But I will tell you right now, you cannot buy general liability for a security guard company for less than $1,000 a year and have it worth anything.
Okay. So you talked about keeping costs low. Is there a way for security guard companies to reduce that annual premium that they're paying? Right? I mean, are there things that they can do operationally, or is it just a matter of going to your agent and saying, hey, we're paying too much. Can we shop this around?
Your agent may or may not be able to respond and shop it around. You know, if he's not well versed in the industry, then he's going to make 2 or 3 fatal mistakes up front by going to companies that's not where you want to be. But to lower your cost, you can make sure that when you give somebody your billable hours or you give somebody your guard payroll, make sure that only guards, only people that actually stand post or people that you can actually bill to your client are what is the payroll that you're looking to rate off of, because your policy is based on the rates for your billable hours or your payroll. And so if you give them supervisors, administrative people, clerical, if you give them some people in there that you can't bill for, then what happens is it throws your rating base way, way off. And so your cost goes up just by the fact that you've given them way too much to work with.
Got it. So don't include your VP of sales, the girl or the guy working at the front desk, your field supervisors. Those people should be excluded from that payroll count. You have to make sure that they're excluded.
Correct.
Got it.
Remember that, and I tell people this all the time, that insurance does not make you prettier and it does not make the envy of your friends. It strictly buys you peace of mind. And if you don't have the right kind of insurance, it's kind of like buying a car that only has 3 wheels. Okay. So sooner or later, 3 wheels may get you by for a while, but sooner or later, you're going to find out that it doesn't go very fast and it doesn't go very long. So just make sure that you get the right fit for what your company's doing. The only other thing I would say, if you have good insurance and you get a lawsuit, make sure the first thing you do is call your agent and then you send that lawsuit to them, because it's not like wine. Lawsuits do not get better with age. And so you want to make sure that it gets put in the hands of an adjuster and a law firm that will defend you, because that's really all your insurance policy is going to provide. Is it's going to provide defense for whatever you're being sued for. So if you turn in a claim, here's what will transpire. You'll call your agent, tell him that this unfortunate thing happened, and I need to turn in a claim. And then he should tell you to turn in an incident report, and then he can file the claim off the incident report. Now, then he has a form that he'll fill out. He sends it to the insurance company. They set it up. Well, so many times the incident report is slow in coming, and we can't file one without that. Because, and I tell people all the time, if you have somebody that has an incident You need to get them in your office. You need to drug test them. And then you need to get them to write down everything that happened at that incident as soon as they can, because their memory gets foggy. They talk to 2 or 3 people. They start embellishing on what happened. If they did something wrong, I guarantee you 2 days later, everything they did was right. And you don't want to know that. You want to know what actually happened. So, it's a real important if you do have a claim, to get the information as fast as you can and get it reported in a timely manner. It'll save you a lot of trouble in the long run.
Got it. And generally speaking, our customers shouldn't have to worry about that because the security officers should be doing their reports electronically and sending those in immediately. But that is great information to know. So, with that being said, thank you so much for spending a little time with me this afternoon, educating the viewership here. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of questions for you. So, if someone wants to talk to you, how do they find you?
You can go to our website, which is D as in David, F as in Frank, A as in Albert, insure, INSURE.com. You can contact us at dfainsure@gmail.com, or you can call us at 214-646-3347. We'll be more than happy to help you, whether you're a customer or not. I have a lot of people that I give advice to.
Well, thanks again, Fred. It has been a pleasure, and we will talk again soon.
All right. Thanks, Courtney.
All right.